Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another video on the Flip the Mind channel. And today we are going to be talking about, is therapy worth the time and money? This is a question that I feel a lot of people ask, and it's a very important question because for those of you who have ever wanted to try therapy, or anybody who's just been a little bit interested in it, you know that it costs a lot of money, and unless insurance covers for majority of that money, it's a ton of money, and it can be very costly and very time consuming depending on how often you are doing your meetings. Pretty much, I'm going to be going over everything that I think about therapy in general, and because I'm somebody who used to do therapy, I can tell you my experiences and kind of what I think you can expect from a therapy session with a counselor. Now, before we get started, make sure you guys check out flipthemind.com. That is my website that I made. It's about mental health, specifically for teenagers, but it can be mental health for anybody. And we have tons of different clothing on there. We have my book on there that you can purchase, and it's a really good book. It's the one actually back there, as you can see, and it's not a hardcover, it's only an ebook, but I think it's very interesting. It's about my life, and it talks about different things that I've had to go through and pretty much how I've overcame those challenges. So if you guys want to check it out, it is on my website. Also, the room got a little bit of an upgrade, as you guys can maybe see. I don't think that was there last time, and the plants are new. I also got a guitar amp because I fixed my guitar finally, so that's very exciting. But anyways, let's get back to the video. So let's talk about money first. Now, in my opinion, I think that therapy is way too expensive for the actual experience that you get. Now, I think that therapy is helpful to some degree, okay? I think that it is good for people who want to get started, but at the same time, I feel like if you've been dealing with whatever you've been dealing with for a long time, maybe therapy wouldn't be the best option. Now, I'm not saying like don't do therapy at all, but I just don't think that therapy might be the best fit for you. Now, just to be totally transparent here, I have had a couple of counselors in the past, and a lot of them were not really the best fit for me and the things that I was going through at the time. So I ended up not, having long sessions with them. I kind of had them for like a couple months, and then after a while I could just tell that nothing was changing and it just wasn't the right fit for me. The time that therapy takes to do and stuff, like most sessions that you're going to have are going to be an hour, and sometimes, depending on how severe your mental health challenges are, it might be anywhere from once a week to maybe 2 times a week to maybe even 3 times a week, depending on how often your therapist recommends that you see them. And I think the right number is obviously dependent on you and what you think is going to be the most beneficial for you. But from what I've personally seen, I've noticed that 1 session a week is actually the best fit. I think it helps, because you have a week of time to work on whatever you were talking about during your meeting, and then a week later you can come back and say, hey, did you get this done or not? And you can say yes or no, and what were the challenges that you faced, what were things that you were proud of. And there's a lot of good things about that I think can be accomplished with something like that. But yeah, I can understand why people would maybe want to see 2 times a week, because then you're actually talking to somebody more often, especially if you're somebody who doesn't really talk to a whole lot of people. That can be really helpful for you. Another thing that I want to talk about that wasn't really the best experience was virtual therapy. Now, I get that being in person is definitely a lot better for a lot of reasons. I mean, you get to be in person with the therapist, you get to talk to them, and pretty much just say, all these different things that you want, and they can kind of see your expression, they can see your movement and stuff, and they can really understand the kind of stuff that you're going through, right? And with virtual, it's a little bit different, and I get there's a lot of challenges they have to work around and stuff, but there were a few problems that I kind of ran into when I was doing therapy sessions, and one of the major ones was having my online meetings canceled. I am not going to talk about exactly which place I went to, as that doesn't necessarily matter, but the place that I used to, do virtually, one of the biggest problems was the meeting schedules and getting an actual therapy session out and going. I had to literally wait 3 weeks after I first scheduled my appointment. And here's what I mean by that. So let's just say, for example, I had my appointment on February 2nd, right? My appointment was then canceled, right? After that, my appointment was canceled the next week. And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. Like, what's going on here? And then the next week, the appointment got canceled again. And to make it even worse on top of that, the appointment person or the therapist also charged us, even though they were the ones who canceled the appointment. And they actually lied and said that I didn't show up in the meeting, which I did. Obviously, I was in the meeting for like 20 minutes, and she said she was in there for like 15-20 minutes, and they were not, right? And they were not in there for that long, and they tried to charge us for that, and it was a lie. And now this is obviously just from one experience, but it's definitely left a negative kind of feeling inside, because it's like, wow, like this like company, I guess, has somebody working there that is, literally scamming you out of your money after canceling your appointment 3 times. Like, it wasn't just like she canceled it one time or she accidentally messed up and charged us. It's like, no, it was canceled 3 times. And I just think that was a bit ridiculous. And the fact that, to put the charge even on top of canceling is just crazy. And, I thought that was absolutely absurd. So I decided to go to my next therapist after that. Now, the next therapist after that was a lot better compared to, obviously, the one that I never got to even meet. But the therapist after, we had a few meetings and stuff, and the first 2 were actually pretty fine, and I actually could notice a little bit of change. But then once we got to the 3rd meeting, one of the problems that happened was we spent 40 minutes doing something completely unrelated to therapy. Now, I don't want to go too deep into it, as I just kind of want to keep this more personal and stuff that I kind of, keep to myself. But in terms of therapy and what actually helped, we spent 40 minutes doing something completely unrelated to mental health. And I just thought that was very odd. But I thought maybe that was only one time. So I did the therapy session again the next week, and we did something very similar where, I'll go a little bit more into this one. So we would sit, and she told me, right, to breathe in and out, right? And we did that for 30 minutes of just breathing in and out, and then we would think about, we would subconsciously tell ourselves that, like, we can't do something, and then how we can do something. Like, so, oh man, like, I'm missing out on this in my life, and then you gotta be like, oh well, right? And that's something that I think could work. But we did that for half of the session. Half of the session was me sitting in silence and thinking about my own thoughts. Now, granted, maybe that might work for some people, and obviously this is all my opinion and what works for me, but I just thought this was incredibly time wasteful, and it was just not great. And after that meeting, I decided to cancel the appointment because nothing was being improved. Now, what I do want to talk about though is the first few therapists that I had when I was first going through stuff actually was really beneficial for me. Like, it was nice to talk to somebody. It was nice for somebody to actually understand what I was going through. And I 100% can tell you right now, doing in-person therapy sessions is like 10 times better than doing it virtually, because they don't actually get to see you. They don't get to interact with you in much ways. Like, in person, you get to actually talk to one another face to face rather than from one screen to another. So it's safe to say that I've had good experiences with therapy, and I've also had bad experiences. But the question is, do I think that therapy is worth the time and money? And my answer to that is kind of. And the reason I say kind of is because it did work half the time. The first few therapists that I had, it was actually really good, and I was seeing a lot of progress, and there was just some mistakes that I was making on my end as to why it wasn't getting better, and I had my own issues that were going on, but they definitely took the edge off a little bit, and it was really helpful. But the problem is, with the second half of therapists that I had, it wasn't so great, and I've obviously had some bad experiences with some of those therapists, but I think overall, I do think that therapy is worth the time and money, okay? I think that if you are somebody who is just now starting to go through these problems, I think that therapy is 100% worth it, because everything is so new to you that you don't even know, like, you don't know all these different tools and techniques, and I think that some of those could really help you. But if you're someone who's been dealing with this for a while, therapy can be a little bit harder, and it can be harder to kind of remain focused on some of those smaller tasks that you felt like you've done 80 times before. And that's why I think the second half of therapists that I had, it was harder for them to really connect with me, because I already knew a lot of the stuff they were going over, and I already could kind of understand everything they were talking about, and then I would know their techniques and what they were kind of trying to push me in the direction of, and I think that's ultimately where it just didn't really work out for me. But just because you've been dealing with a problem for a long time doesn't mean you can't do therapy. I think there is some beneficial things from therapy, and like I said, for some of those later sessions, I actually started to look at life in a different way, and I started to view it from a different perspective. But I will say that, there are going to be some bad therapists out there, and there's going to be some good ones, right? And I listed a couple of those examples, and, it just kind of happens, sometimes you get a really good one, and sometimes you get one that isn't really the best fit for you, and that's okay. That's what therapy is all about. It's about trying new things, talking to new people, and just giving it a shot, because at the end of the day, you are there trying to get help, and you are there trying to kind of, be a little bit more peace in mind, right? And I think they will definitely help you in that direction. And I think most therapists out there will definitely, be in your best interest. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful in case you wanted to start therapy. And like I said already, I really do recommend it for anybody out there to just give it a shot and see what happens. And if you get a therapist that you don't like, try another one, because you might find one that you actually do enjoy. It just takes time to find the one that really sticks with you, and you just gotta give it time. Like for me, I'm probably gonna try therapy again later down the line, and maybe I'll find the one that is the best fit for me. It'll just take some time. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up today's video. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Make sure you guys subscribe and like the video, and share it with anybody that you think might need this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.